Good Monday evening. I'm meteorologist Colleen Peterson in the Weather Center. I am tracking a significant system that is heading our way to Kentucky and Indiana as well. Not really a big update here over the past few hours, still holding true to seeing the two rounds, one overnight tonight and then that second one, which I think is going to be the most significant window tomorrow afternoon of seeing a violent tornado potentially in Ohio. Mainly that's where that biggest risk is, but it's also possible and potential here in Kentucky and Indiana. So we want to make sure that you guys stay safe, have the latest information. I'm going to walk you through that forecast model. I'm also have the live stream pulled up. David's tuning in. Allie, hello, Indiana. I'm going to make sure that we get through all the questions that you have, so make sure to feel free to comment and I will answer any questions that you may have. But first, let's go ahead and pull these graphics full and talk about the two rounds. Now, with each round, there's actually a different threat with each. Round one is overnight tonight, 1 o'clock in the morning through 9 o'clock. I think that's the biggest risk of maybe seeing some flash flooding and some damaging wind. Thankfully, overnight tonight, the risk of seeing a tornado is on the lower end. It might be a short-lived tornado embedded in a cluster of thunderstorms, but the biggest threat of seeing a longer-lived tornado is tomorrow afternoon with round number 2. Right around noon, it's going to start to pick up through 8 p.m. Very isolated supercells that's potential here in Kentucky and Indiana, as well as over to Cincinnati and Ohio. This could be an outbreak for areas over in Ohio. For us, it's possible that we maybe see 1 or 2 out there. And in fact, we'll probably get a tornado watch issued here shortly for overnight tonight. Now with round number 1, this is that risk, a level 3 out of 5. So this is from 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock with that first wave. Notice that the biggest risk overnight is going to be north of Louisville into southern Indiana. Hail and damaging wind are possible. And again, we can't rule out that isolated tornado. So we could sleep easy over in Campbellsville and Columbia tonight and really around Bardstown and E-Town. You have a much lower risk. In fact, you're probably not even going to see much, to be honest. Bardstown down to Columbia overnight tonight. That is just round 1. Tomorrow afternoon, a greater risk. I mean, we have a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk across the central and southern state of Ohio. That means it is likely that they're going to see severe weather across their communities, long-lived tornadoes potentially. For us here, we're just on the fringe of it, so it's not as great of a risk, but it is possible. We're not saying it's likely, we're not saying it's guaranteed, but a level 3 out of 5 is definitely possible to see severe weather tomorrow afternoon. Now, I also do want to focus in on Madison, that is over into Indiana. The communities very close to Carrollton, Trimble County. We're also seeing those communities a little bit closer to seeing that greater risk. So the farther north and east you get from Louisville, the greatest risk of seeing a stronger thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon. Now, west of Louisville, down to English, Paoli, Bedford, and Jasper, the farther west you go, your chances definitely decrease just a little bit, a level 2 out of 5. Not saying you shouldn't prepare, not saying you're on the safer side, but it's a little bit of a easier rest for you tomorrow afternoon. You could still see something spin up into the afternoon and overnight tonight. I think it's going to be the biggest threat for you guys. So as we head farther south, this does include majority of Kentucky all the way down to Nashville and even portions of northern Alabama under that level 3 risk. Again, this is a pretty significant risk that is in place for our neighbors over in Cincinnati, Ohio. But again, it is possible. This is a pretty big risk for us here as well. So thank you, Sherry, for always watching WHAS11. I'm keeping my eyes on those comments as well. So let's go ahead and walk through this forecast model. From now until 1 o'clock, we're really not going to see much. Maybe an isolated thunderstorm starts to fire up around 10:30 p.m. And then once we head towards 1 o'clock, this model showing maybe a thunderstorm firing up around Bedford, Paoli, mainly north of Louisville, and then fast forwarding to 4 o'clock, that is when that line's going to enter. Granted, this model is a little bit aggressive, to be honest. I don't know if it's going to be this heavy of rain. This is a little bit dramatic. Other models show less rain, but there is a flooding potential for flash flooding from Paoli to Madison. And then there's also, again, that chance for seeing a spin-up tornado areas north of Louisville. If you live south of Louisville, overnight tonight, you're barely going to see anything, which is why your risk is very minimal for your community. 7 o'clock in the morning, that's when it's likely going to be around the downtown area. here around Jefferson County, zooming on in closer to that model. Flash flooding, large hail possible. Again, that lower end threat of seeing an isolated tornado is possible throughout the morning hours. Now, around noon, this is when we're going to transition to our greatest risk of seeing a potential tornado. By noon tomorrow afternoon, it is possible that we'll get some sunshine, and if that happens, then we could potentially see some of these individual cells start to fire up. This is going to be the threat, especially off farther to the east and northeast, a more significant threat over Ohio. Those are the individual cells that we are going to be watching, having that potential of producing a violent tornado tomorrow afternoon around 3-4 p.m. Not saying it's guaranteed, but it is definitely a possibility here as we head towards the late afternoon. So it's not going to be a widespread event. When we're talking about supercells that are individual, they're not with a cluster of thunderstorms, it's just one individual cell. Those are the ones that have that energy to keep on going and to travel long distances. So zooming on out, I do want to show you Ohio in comparison. This is why they are under a greater risk, because it almost looks like they start to form over our area, and then as it travels over to Ohio, it really starts to gain that energy. So they have just a little bit more ingredients over Cambridge, Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Maysville. We are going to be watching those areas potentially for seeing the greatest threat of a long-lived tornado. For us here, maybe this is where it first begins and then it picks up in Ohio. I think that's going to be more of the scenario for us here. It starts here and then ends in Ohio, and they have more of a risk of seeing it be a little bit larger. They could even see an EF2 or greater. I mean, we don't really talk like this unless it is a significant risk, which is what we're seeing for Ohio. For us, it's possible of seeing a stronger severe storm that has that capability of producing a tornado. The good news is by the time we head towards 8 p.m., it looks like it did slow down a little bit. So once we head towards 8-9 p.m., that is when that line is going to move and our threat of severe weather will start to come to an end. So breaking down our weather impacts, the biggest one is going to be strong wind, large hail, and then following that, a medium risk of seeing a tornado and flooding as well. That's also going to be a medium risk. Sherry, where can you please spell out the city that you're asking? She's looking around 2 o'clock to get it at 1 a.m. here. Jefferson, JC, is that short for Jefferson County? I think not even, honestly, in Jefferson County, not until like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. The 1-2 o'clock in the morning is more for areas down into central and southern Indiana, if that's what your question is. So let's go ahead and look at that radar right now. Really not seeing too much out there. We are watching a cluster of thunderstorms really starting to fire up. This is where that tornado watch is in place. I don't see a current tornado warning, which is good for areas in Illinois, but off farther to the west, I mean, we are seeing tornado warnings fire up. Let me put on this kind of radar so we can see. There is a tornado emergency just north of Tulsa, Oklahoma, meaning a tornado is on the ground currently in Oklahoma. And this is that same system that is heading our way. So producing a tornado right now just north of Tulsa, Oklahoma. When it turns purple, that means it's a confirmed tornado on the ground. So those cluster of thunderstorms are going to continue to move off to the northeast. And then what's heading our way is going to be what's moving through Texas. So we're going to continue to watch this line gradually move off to the north and northeast, this giant low pressure system that is capable of producing severe weather. I think the ones that we're watching off to the north and west, if I put on that forward movement, it looks like it's heading north and north of Indianapolis. So we really don't have much that's heading our way as of right now. We're going to have to wait until the morning hours around 2-3 o'clock to really get a handle on the exact timing. So again, this is going to be a significant event for us here in Kentucky and Indiana. We're watching that threat overnight tonight, but I think it's really going to be tomorrow, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then that second round into the afternoon. So going over a few tips that you can do with your family and to help with storm anxiety. I know it can be really nerve-wracking. I don't think going to sleep tonight there's too much to worry about if you live in Louisville or far south. Maybe into southern Indiana there is that lower end threat. Make sure you have your weather radio on. Make sure your phone is charged. Put your phone, don't leave it on silent, leave it on loud. If you have any automatic warnings that you could be sent to your phone, of course our app, we'll make sure to send push alerts if something happens to pop up. We will break into news and TV, so maybe if you're one of the ones who like to leave the TV on while going to sleep, just leave it on ABC. That way, if you hear something outside, we'll be on TV right even before a warning is issued. We like to get ahead of it as soon as possible. We also have a comment coming in from Brianna Craddy. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. What about the Highlands in Louisville? Is it going to be a higher risk? I'm house sitting, and it's not going to be a great night. So thankfully, Brianna, tonight is really not too bad for Highlands in Louisville. I think your time window would be 5 to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning of seeing that heavy rain and having that risk. So I think around 5 o'clock, if you want to set your alarm, if you're one of the ones that like to wake up and watch the storms, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning I think would be a good time window for Louisville and Jefferson County. That also includes Highlands area. Let's go ahead and get back to the threat. I also want to talk about the two separate rounds to those that might just be viewing at the end of this live. There's two rounds that we're watching. The first is tonight, 1 o'clock to 10 o'clock. That's where we'll see flash flooding, damaging wind, as well as large hail as possible with the chance of an isolated spin-up tornado. But if we're talking about the risk of seeing those violent tornadoes, that's going to be tomorrow afternoon, past noon. So noon to 7 p.m. tomorrow is going to be that time window for us that we just want to stay indoors. Honestly, do not go outside tomorrow afternoon. Try to get your grocery shopping in. Well, too late now. I guess the grocery store is closed. But try to eat whatever you have in your freezer and stay off the roads. I think that's when people get really caught up in the rough weather, is when they're out and about and it's during the day. JCPS is off for spring break, which is great. That means kids, we don't have to worry about too many at school today. Or tomorrow, I should say. So at least you'll have your kids and your families with you, and just go to the basement, go to the interior portion of your room if a warning happens to pop up. But I think tomorrow afternoon is that great window. We have David asking about E-Town. Susie's asking about Breckinridge County in Kentucky. And you're welcome, Brianna. Make sure to set an alarm. That's always good. That's the best way, is just be aware of what's going on so you're not caught off guard. So people are asking about the timing, so we're going to go ahead and walk through this forecast model one last time for everybody. Get a drink of water from my Stanley. All right, so now to 1 o'clock, barely going to see anything. I mean, this model tries to show an isolated storm, but it's really past 1 a.m. that the risk will start to increase. If you live north of Louisville, you'll maybe see an isolated storm around 1, 2 o'clock. But if you're in Louisville, Kentucky, Jefferson County, you might not even see anything until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So this forecast model shows a lot of rain tomorrow morning around 5, 6 o'clock from Madison, Scottsburg, Salem, and Paoli. If you look at the screen, level 3 out of 5 risk, flash flooding, large hail, main risk tomorrow morning. Spin-up tornadoes, possible. I would say that's more of a in between the low to medium threat of seeing a spin-up tornado tomorrow morning. Not saying it's zero, not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm saying compared to the afternoon, the morning hours aren't going to be as conducive to see a long-lived tornado. And it's going to be mainly north. Might not even head to Jefferson County till 7 o'clock in the morning. This model actually really overdoes it with the amount of rain that we'll see. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Okay, and then now we're entering round number 2. If you're looking for a break, 10 to noon is going to be a window where we're really not going to see too much. Once we head towards 1, 2 p.m., you'll notice those cells starting to develop. And if you notice, if we get sunshine, that is not good. If we get sunshine, I think that is going to be the ingredient that's going to fire it up. If we get clouds, if the sun does not clear, I can't express this enough. If you look outside tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, at noon, at 1, and you see clouds, send a prayer up, because that could be what busts this whole thing. If we don't get sunshine tomorrow, we will not have the energy to be able to produce these tornadoes. If we have sunshine tomorrow, after that first round, that's not good. So just something that you could look at yourself tomorrow. If look up at the sky, be like, oh no, it's sunny, that's not good. So this model shows right here those individual cells starting to fire up really late into the afternoon. Trying to use my tools here. I'm going to pause it here for a second. This is the threat tomorrow afternoon. I'm not saying this is exactly where it's going to be. This could be anywhere on the map, just showing you the kind of supercells that could develop. So those storms, just one individual storm is called a supercell if it has a strong strong downdraft, a strong indraft, and it really starts to form. That's what could drop a dangerous tornado that could be on the ground for a long period of time. So this is why we're saying this is a significant risk with the type of setup that we have in store for the afternoon. Now, I also want to put it in perspective, areas over in Ohio. You see how much worse it looks for them over Cambridge, Columbus. I think that there is going to be a tornado tomorrow. That's likely, but I have a better idea of where it is, probably going to be over in Ohio. Can't rule out our area. It could start here, and then once it heads to Ohio, it's really going to start to have more fuel. They have sunshine tomorrow in Ohio. They have better ingredients. They're closer to that low pressure up to the north, so they are in that perfect position of seeing long track violent tornadoes in Ohio. For us here, we're on that edge. You know, it might not happen, it might happen, so that's good. I mean, it's best to not be under it at all, but, you know, we're in a better scenario than our friends over in Cincinnati and Columbus. That does not look good for them, to be honest. So, zooming back to what we have, you see it looks a little bit weaker for us. It's possible one drops. It's possible that we get something really bad, and it's also possible that it also waits till it gets to Ohio to do it. So that's kind of like where the distinction of you know, how bad is it going to keep pressing the wrong button? How bad it's going to be is our location and the timing and just a few ingredients that could really bust the whole forecast, which I'm hoping for. It is severe weather season. April is definitely the month where we see the most severe weather here across the Midwest. I mean, Oklahoma is seeing severe weather right now. They have a tornado on the ground just north of Tulsa as of 10 minutes ago. So that system is moving our way. It has been producing tornadoes already for that community. I do think that there will be one out there tomorrow with the ingredients. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. Not saying it's going to be in our area, more likely over in Ohio, but it is possible where it drops here and then it moves on to Ohio. So we could be that starting mark for a potential outbreak, which I would hate, but that potential is definitely there. All right, Richmond, Kentucky, someone tuning in from Bullitt. I walked through that forecast model, so hopefully that was a better idea for you with that timing. So tonight is mainly going to be the heavy rain. Let me pull this graphic up. Tonight is going to be the heavy rain, the wind, and the large hail, mainly late morning or early morning, I would say, late night. So around 4 or 5 o'clock, that's when we'll start to see it here farther south into Louisville. If you live south of Louisville, you're barely going to see anything tonight. And then round number 2 tomorrow afternoon, that is going to be the biggest risk of seeing those long-lived tornadoes here in Kentucky and Indiana. All right, so I don't have any further questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end this Facebook Live and this live stream wherever you're watching it, on our apps, on our social media pages. I hope you all stay safe tonight. Thankfully, the tornado threat is not as bad tonight as what it is tomorrow afternoon, meaning people will be up, they'll be aware, they'll be watching. If anything happens, I'll make sure to cut into programming on WHAS11. We have Chief Meteorologist Ben Pine coming in tomorrow morning, along with Meteorologist Sam Gabrielli. We have Reed out in the field. We have Christina San Juan. We have a full team here around the clock going to keep you safe. So if you have any further questions, you can feel free to reach out to me on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Colleen Peterson. Hopefully I can answer some questions. I'll be here through the night and then back tomorrow afternoon. And download our WHS11 app. That way you can get alerts, and make sure to follow me on my social media sites. I have my TikTok weather page. I also have on Facebook, Meteorologist Colleen Peterson. I'm on X, Colleen Peterson. And of course, I'm more active on Facebook when it comes to weather and TikTok. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys all stay safe through the severe weather threat, and we'll keep you updated as we get closer.